So this is the DJI RSC2. It's a gimbal, a really good gimbal. In fact, I think it might be the best gimbal out there for beginner filmmakers and professionals alike. The DJI RSC2 is a gimbal that came out about a year ago now, and here in the US it costs $500, which is actually a really good price for a gimbal of this quality. So basically, a gimbal is a tool used for stabilizing camera footage. It uses 3 motors that counteract whatever movements your hands make. You can kind of think of a gimbal like attaching a camera to a chicken's head, but not quite as smooth. Most gimbals can't move directly up and down, so it is still possible to get shaky footage if you are really shaking the gimbal. However, gimbals usually get rid of most, if not all, of the shakes and jitters that come from handheld filmmaking. Okay, that's the basics of gimbals, but why is the RSC2 different? Well, the first reason has to do with its ease of use. The DJI RSC2 is a very simple gimbal to set up. Now you might think it would be as simple as just popping the camera on the gimbal, but setting up a gimbal is actually much harder than that. As with all gimbals, the DJI RSC2 needs to be balanced. Otherwise, the motors will have to work harder to keep the camera steady, which will actually make the footage shakier, and it will also drain the battery faster. However, unlike most gimbals, the RSC2 is very easy to balance. All you really have to do is unlock the 3 separate motors and then balance them one at a time. At first it takes a while to balance, but I found that even coming from never using a gimbal before, after a few times I was able to get it up and running in less than 5 minutes. Also, the controls are very easy to use on this gimbal. There is a power button on the side, a menu selection dial/button on the other side, a back button below that allows you to get out of the menu system, a joystick on the front if you want to move it in a specific direction, a mode button that allows you to quickly switch between different gimbal modes, a record button that will focus the camera, take pictures, and record video, a dial on the back that can be programmed to change almost any camera setting, and a recenter button. I was able to figure out how to work this gimbal almost immediately after picking it up, and I've never used a gimbal before. So if you've never used a gimbal before, I'm sure this will be very easy to pick up. And honestly, all the buttons are very intuitive, and you really don't even need any sort of manual to help you figure it out. Now, most people probably want to spend $500 on something that doesn't break. So how is the build quality? Well, it's actually very solid. The majority of the gimbal is metal, except for the motor covers, some of the buttons, and the tripod grip. However, I would be pretty surprised if any of the plastic parts actually broke. Also, it's quite heavy, so it doesn't really feel like it could break that easily at all. But one thing that definitely will break is the like button when you smash it to spread these videos to more people. It really does help, and it only takes a second unless you have your mouse speed set to 0. Thanks for the help. Now, back to the video. One cool feature about this gimbal that most gimbals don't have is a folding body. This makes it very easy to store for travel. So if you travel a lot and you want to document your travels, but you also want them to be smooth and look pretty professional, then this gimbal is definitely a great option for you. So how smooth is this gimbal? I don't even know if you guys can really hear me, but I'm out here to try and test out the gimbal in a setting that you would actually use the gimbal in. So I'm gonna go ahead and test it out and do some shots in the backyard. Side by side, you can probably tell the difference. So what makes the DJI RSC2 different from other gimbals? Well, here are some features that I think make this gimbal stand out. First, the gimbal can be connected to your camera. A lot of gimbals have this feature, but the cool thing is that you can also connect your phone to the gimbal. This unlocks a ton of features that are honestly just really cool. For example, you can use your phone to remotely move the gimbal. This would be really helpful if you have somebody to hold the gimbal while the cameraman guides the camera movements using the phone. Getting the Raven Eye video transmitter would be even more helpful because you'd be able to display display a live view from the camera onto your phone, but the Raven Eye is quite expensive. Another awesome feature is this programmable mode that allows you to turn the gimbal into a mini camera robot. I can see this being very useful for somebody who wants to get precise shots for something like a product commercial. Also, you can program this gimbal to do a moving time lapse. And for regular viewers of this channel, I think it might even be possible to use this for stop motion, but I still have to test it out and see if it really works. I think this gimbal is built for beginners as it is very easy to use, but I think professionals could use this as well, as it has plenty of features and the build quality is fantastic. It's also more expensive than the cheap plastic gimbals, but it's also not as expensive as a professional gimbal. So I think it's really the perfect price for somebody who wants to step up their filmmaking game without having to get something like a Steadicam. Now, if you want to get started with stop motion, watch this video right here. If you want to learn more about filmmaking, I have a few videos in this playlist that might help you out. Okay, bye.